Family trust is for the rich, as they can afford the CGT. If you are poor, keep it simple and buy the asset under your own name. This is a really interesting perspective, but it's inspired me to record this video because there are people out there who are setting up family trusts for the wrong reasons. Family trusts aren't just for the rich, and there are really three core reasons why you might consider setting up a family trust, and I believe it's important that you get educated first so you don't do anything silly and potentially incur costs setting something up that actually doesn't provide you any net benefit. So let me run you through some of these benefits. Now, as a little bit of an explainer for those who don't understand what a family trust is, a family trust is also known as a discretionary trust. And at its core, it essentially provides you with the discretion over how you distribute income and capital gains in any particular financial year. To give you an example, let's say that it's yourself and your significant other, and you've got a couple of adult children, and you earn a certain amount of income in a particular year. You sold a property and that has capital gains. In that particular financial year, you can look at the individual tax position of all of those people, and then you can decide how much income they receive and how that's distributed in order to optimize your tax position. Whereas one individual might be at a 45% tax rate, others might only be at a 30% tax rate. And if they're above that, we also have the ability to distribute excess profits into a bucket company, which pays a flat rate of 30% tax. The benefit of this is that because you have discretion in every particular financial year and each individual's financial position is likely to change in each financial year, it provides you with the opportunity to optimize that tax position for your family unit each and every single year as opposed to having a fixed outcome. In contrast, if you owned an investment property, say 50-50 with your partner, you must always distribute the income for that property 50-50. You also must distribute the capital gains 50-50. And any change to these percentages requires you to actually shift ownership on that property, and that's going to trigger both capital gains tax and stamp duty. 2, asset protection. So, depending on your occupation and the activities that you may engage in, you may have particular risks that you take on of being litigated. No one is immune from litigation. We all have a potential risk that we could be litigated. And although we take out certain insurances, those insurances may not provide us with cover. Let's say that you're accidentally negligent, something like that happens, right? So the big issue here is that as an individual, when you own assets in your own name, it's relatively straightforward for people to come after those assets. Whereas when things are held in an entity like a family trust, particularly if you are not the appointer of that family trust, it can be argued that you don't have control of those assets in the trust. So it becomes more complicated for those people to get access to your assets. So this is probably most important for people who have high-risk occupations. We're talking barristers, surgeons, these types of people, because the risk of litigation is substantially higher. And forgive my geese, this is Egbert, and this is Eggnog. Hey, bro, how you doing? Sorry, they're ruining my video. So this is something we may consider. Even for these types of individuals, we may not even use a family trust. We may just keep assets in their spouse's name, or there's also a strategy that's called a gift and a loan back arrangement. But essentially, this becomes an insurance policy for these individuals who have a higher chance of being litigated than others. And Bert is deciding to bite me. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, the third reason is maximizing your borrowing capacity, allowing you to accumulate more assets. So, in the eyes of the bank, we have a certain amount of servicing ability, okay? And that's essentially a multiple of your income and expenses, and there's a number of different factors. But to simplify it, most people have a debt-to-income ratio of about 6 times. So if you earn 100 grand a year in income, you can borrow 600 grand. Now, the issue is when you buy an investment property, the bank will gross up your interest rate, and they will discount the income that you receive. So let's say you've got 30 grand a year in income from your investment property, they might only look at it at 25,000. And if you're paying 6.5% interest on your loan, they'll look at it at 8.5%. Now, as you can see, this means that we've got a diminishing borrowing capacity. And for so many people, they get stuck at 1, 2, maybe 3 investment properties if they're lucky, and then they can't buy any more. So how do we overcome that? Well, we can utilize a family trust, and we can also utilize other entities like companies to act as what's called a special purpose vehicle. Now, this is flavor of the month on TikTok at the moment. We've been running this strategy for over a decade. But essentially, what this means is that when we buy an asset in an entity, and we get that entity to being neutrally geared, meaning that its income can cover all of its expenses, many banks will actually ignore the debt in that entity for the purposes of any future borrowing. Sorry, my geese are really noisy. It's almost dinner time here, and I've got to go take them for food. So the benefit of that is that when we buy a property, we get that entity positively geared. We can essentially ignore that debt, allowing you to accumulate more assets. And then hopefully those assets are going to continue to compound and grow over the long term, allowing you to create financial freedom faster. So these are basically the three core reasons why somebody might consider setting up a family trust. One, they want flexibility over how they distribute income and capital gains in any particular financial year, so they're not forced to pay a higher tax than what they could otherwise get if they used a family trust. Two, they want insurance for their assets. They want asset protection greater than holding assets in their own name, and that premium is going to provide them with peace of mind. And thirdly, they want to increase their asset base by using strategic structures in order to be able to use the bank's rules essentially against them to compound their wealth. Now, this is a simple cost-benefit calculation. It might cost you about $3,000 to set up a family trust and probably about $3,000 a year to run it. So you look at the cost that it's going to cost you. So let's call it $6,000 year one, $3,000 thereafter. And you directly compare that to the potential tax savings, the price of insurance, right? And the ability for you to increase your asset base substantially higher than what you could otherwise. And when you compare those things together, you can make an easy decision for you and your family of what makes most sense for you. This is not just for rich people. This isn't just about CGT, and this is about strategic planning. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments. Hope this is helpful.